I'm Cassandra Morgan, and 2 years ago, my family had me committed to Riverside Psychiatric Hospital to steal my $40 million inheritance. They thought the drugs would make me forget. Instead, I learned exactly how to make someone question their sanity. Now they're the ones seeing things that aren't there. Before we begin, this is a true story of psychological warfare and justice served. Names have been changed for legal protection. Subscribe now because what happens next will make you question everything you know about family loyalty. The day my family had me committed wasn't the day they betrayed me. That happened 3 weeks earlier, at the reading of my father's will. $40 million, my stepmother Charlotte's voice cracked. All of it to Cassandra? I can still see their faces, Charlotte, my stepbrother Marcus, my stepsister Victoria, as the lawyer confirmed that I, not them, would inherit Morgan Pharmaceuticals and my father's entire estate. There must be some mistake, Marcus said, his Harvard law degree practically radiating from his perfect posture. Cassandra isn't stable enough for this responsibility. That was the moment. The seed of their plan, planted in a mahogany-lined law office. I didn't know then that they'd already started gathering evidence of my instability. The secret recordings of me grieving my father. The carefully edited videos of me talking to myself, actually phone conversations with my therapist. The diary they'd forged in my handwriting, filled with increasingly paranoid thoughts. They were methodical. I'll give them that. We're worried about you, darling, Charlotte said one morning, 3 weeks after the will reading. You haven't been yourself since your father died. That's when I saw the men in white coats standing in our foyer. This is for your own good, Charlotte said as the orderlies approached. You've been having episodes. I tried to run, but Marcus was behind me. Harvard Law, star athlete, 6'2". I didn't stand a chance. She's been talking about conspiracies, Victoria told the psychiatrist who appeared with a clipboard. Saying we're trying to steal her inheritance. Classic paranoid delusions. The irony would have been funny if the needle wasn't already in my arm. I woke up in Riverside Psychiatric Hospital, Section B, the ward for acute cases. My clothes were gone, replaced with pale blue scrubs. My phone, my ID, my connection to the outside world all confiscated. Miss Morgan, Dr. Peters smiled kindly, reviewing my case file. Your family is very concerned. They say you've been experiencing paranoid episodes, believing they're trying to steal your inheritance? I tried to explain, but that's the thing about being in a psych ward, everything you say can be twisted into a symptom. Deny being paranoid? Lack of insight. Get angry about false imprisonment? Aggressive tendencies. Stay calm? Disturbing emotional flatness. But they made one crucial mistake. They put me in the perfect place to learn how to break someone's mind. For 6 months, I became the perfect patient. I took their drugs, or pretended to. I attended every therapy session, every group meeting. I watched. I learned. Most importantly, I documented everything. Dr. Harrison, my night nurse, taught me more about psychological manipulation than she realized. The mind is fragile, she'd say during our late-night talks. Reality is just a consensus. I learned about gaslighting from my fellow patients. About how small inconsistencies can break down someone's grip on reality. About how the most effective psychological warfare isn't dramatic, it's subtle, constant, and impossible to prove. During group therapy, I studied the patterns that made people question their sanity. In art therapy, I learned to forge handwriting. In medication management, I learned which drugs caused which symptoms. All while my family met with hospital administrators, extending my stay. She's still not ready, they'd say, while systematically looting my inheritance. But they didn't know about the journal I kept hidden, not of my thoughts, but of theirs. Every visit logged. Every conversation recorded in my memory. Every weakness, fear, and secret guilt noted. Charlotte's fear of being alone. Marcus's secret drinking problem. Victoria's desperate need for validation. You're making excellent progress, Dr. Peters said after 6 months. Your paranoid delusions about your family seem to have subsided. I smiled and nodded, already planning how I'd use everything I'd learned. The day they released me, Charlotte and Marcus came to pick me up, playing the concerned family perfectly. We've kept everything just as you left it, darling, Charlotte said, her designer perfume failing to mask her anxiety. What they didn't know was that I'd spent those 6 months not just learning, but building allies. Dr. Harrison had become suspicious of my family's frequent payment donations to the hospital. The hospital's IT specialist had noticed irregular access to my medical records. Even my art therapist had questioned the convenience of my breakdown right after inheriting millions. I let them drive me home to our family estate. Let them show me how they'd protected my inheritance by transferring everything into a family trust with them as trustees, of course. Let them think the drugs and therapy had made me compliant. That night, alone in my room, I opened the laptop they'd returned to me and began implementing everything I'd learned about breaking minds. First target, Victoria. The weakest link. The one most desperate for validation. She'd wake up tomorrow to find small things moved in her apartment. Nothing dramatic, just her coffee cup on the wrong side of the sink. Her shoes slightly misaligned. Her mirror tilted 2 degrees to the left. Too subtle to complain about without sounding unstable. I started with Victoria's social media. Every few days, she'd find posts on her account she didn't remember making. Nothing alarming, just slightly off. Wrong dates on memories. Tagged locations she'd never visited. Comments posted at 3 a.m. when she knew she'd been sleeping. When she mentioned it at family dinner, Charlotte dismissed her concerns. "Darling, you've been working too hard." Marcus was next. His precious morning routine became a psychological minefield. His car would be parked slightly differently than he'd left it. His office documents would be in different folders. His phone would show calls he never made to numbers that didn't exist. But the real art was in making them doubt each other. "Victoria, did you move my files?" Marcus would ask. "What files?" "The ones you asked to review yesterday." "I never asked about any files." Charlotte started finding her diary entries changed, subtle alterations to dates and details. Notes about conversations that never happened. Appointments that no one else remembered. I watched them begin to crack. Saw them checking and rechecking things they'd done. Heard them arguing about events they remembered differently. The beauty of it? I never had to do anything dramatic. Just small, constant discrepancies. The kind that make you question your own mind. The real breakdown started 3 months after my release. Victoria began finding prescription bottles in her purse, the same medications they'd forced on me at Riverside. She had no idea how they got there. Marcus discovered his important legal documents had subtle errors, dates changed, names misspelled, signatures slightly wrong. When he tried to prove they were tampered with, the originals in his computer showed the errors had always been there. Charlotte's unraveling was my masterpiece. She started seeing glimpses of my father around the house, just brief moments, always in her peripheral vision. A shadow in the study. A reflection in a window. The scent of his cologne in empty rooms. "I'm telling you, I saw him," she screamed at a family dinner. "He was standing right there." Victoria and Marcus exchanged worried looks, the same ones they'd given me before my commitment. But that was just the beginning. Their phones started showing text conversations they didn't remember having. Security cameras caught them in places they swore they hadn't been. Bank statements showed transactions they couldn't recall making. Each of them thought they were the only one experiencing it. Each afraid to tell the others, afraid of sounding unstable. The paranoia grew like a poison vine, wrapping around our family dinners, choking their relationships. They started watching each other, suspecting each other, just as they'd once watched me. "Marcus, did you change my medication?" Victoria asked one night, her hands shaking. "What medication?" "You're not on any medication." "The bottle's in my purse, the ones you must have put there." "You're not making sense, Vic. Maybe you should see someone." Charlotte became convinced Marcus was trying to have her committed. Marcus thought Victoria was sabotaging his legal practice. Victoria suspected Charlotte of gaslighting her. None of them suspected me, their recovered sister, their compliant victim, who always took her medication and smiled pleasantly at family gatherings. I planted seeds of doubt in their minds during casual conversations. "Charlotte, are you feeling all right? You seem different lately." "Marcus, didn't you tell me yesterday about that meeting?" "No? How strange, it seemed so real." "Victoria, I'm worried about you. You're not acting like yourself." The same phrases they'd used on me, now turning them against each other. Their perfect lives began unraveling thread by thread. Marcus started missing court appearances, insisting his calendar had been changed. His prestigious law firm placed him on medical leave after he had a meltdown in front of a judge, claiming someone was tampering with his case files. Victoria lost her social media influencer contracts after posting increasingly erratic content, posts she swore she never wrote. Her carefully curated image crumbled as she publicly accused random followers of stealing her identity and manipulating her reality. Charlotte's breakdown was spectacular. During a charity gala she'd organized, she started screaming that my father was standing in the corner, watching her. The video went viral, Charlotte Morgan, socialite widow, having a public meltdown about seeing her dead husband. But the masterstroke came when they finally turned on each other. "It's you, isn't it?" Marcus accused Victoria during a family dinner. "You're the one messing with my files." "Me? What about the medication you've been slipping into my drinks?" Victoria screamed back. Charlotte just sat there, staring at my father's empty chair, muttering about guilt and punishment. That's when I played my final card. I called for a psychiatric intervention. For them. The intervention was held in our family estate's main living room, the same room where they'd had me committed 2 years earlier. But this time, I wasn't the patient. "We're concerned about your recent behavior," Dr. Harrison, my old night nurse, said professionally. She'd been documenting their erratic behavior for months, at my request. "Behavior? What behavior?" Marcus demanded, but his hands were shaking as he reached for a drink that wasn't there. I pulled out 3 thick folders. "Let's start with the evidence, shall we?" Security footage showing them wandering the house at night, talking to themselves. Social media posts they'd made during blackouts. Bank records showing irregular transactions. Medical records indicating prescription drug abuse. "This is ridiculous," Charlotte stammered. "We're not the crazy ones," Cassandra was. "Was what, Charlotte?" I asked softly. "Paranoid? Delusional? Seeing things that weren't there? Like you've been seeing my father?" Victoria lunged for the folders but froze when she saw her own handwriting, notes she didn't remember writing, confessing to things she'd never done. But we had you committed," Marcus whispered. "You were sick." "No," I smiled. "I was inconvenient. And you taught me everything I needed to know about making someone appear unstable." "You see," I continued, standing to address them all, "Riverside Psychiatric Hospital taught me something valuable. The difference between actual mental illness and carefully orchestrated psychological warfare." I played the recording from the day they had me committed. Their voices, planning every detail. The forged documents. The fake evidence. Everything. 2 years, I said calmly. 2 years of stealing my inheritance while I was drugged and imprisoned. "But you never thought to check who really owned the hospital, did you?" Their faces went pale as understanding dawned. "That's right. Dad bought Riverside 10 years ago. Every staff member, every security camera, every therapy session, they were all working for me. Recording you. Studying you. Learning how to break you the same way you tried to break me." Charlotte started screaming about seeing my father again. Marcus reached for another invisible drink. Victoria just rocked back and forth, muttering about social media conspiracies. "The trust fund transfers?" I smiled. "All reversed. The company? Back in my control. Your reputations? Well." I gestured to the news vans pulling up outside our estate. "Let's just say your very public breakdowns are about to go viral." "You can't do this," Marcus tried to sound threatening, but his voice cracked. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed softly. "You taught me exactly what family means when you had me committed. Now it's your turn to learn what it feels like to have everyone doubt your sanity." "Dr. Harrison," I nodded to my ally, "would you say these 3 show signs of shared psychotic disorder? Possibly triggered by guilt over their criminal conspiracy?" Charlotte was now openly conversing with my father's ghost. Marcus had pulled out a flask that wasn't there, pretending to drink. Victoria was frantically checking her phone, insisting her social media was being hacked in real time. "Clear signs of psychological break," Dr. Harrison confirmed, taking notes. "Recommending immediate involuntary commitment for evaluation." The orderlies, the same ones who'd taken me away 2 years ago, stepped forward. "No, you don't understand," Marcus pleaded. "She did this to us. She's been gaslighting us." "Paranoid accusations," Dr. Harrison noted. "Blaming others for their symptoms. Classic signs of persecution complex. As they were led away, I picked up Charlotte's phone and played one final recording, my father's voice, from his last days. Cassandra, if you're hearing this, they took the bait. Everything I set up, the inheritance announcement, the hospital ownership, it was all to protect you. I knew what they were planning. Now show them what happens when they underestimate my daughter. Their screams echoed through the halls of our family estate, the same halls where they'd once watched me being dragged away. The media coverage was extensive. Wealthy family's mental breakdown, karma or conspiracy? Headlines splashed across every major network. Their public unraveling went more viral than they could have imagined. Marcus's law firm dropped him completely after videos surfaced of him arguing with invisible opposing counsel. Victoria's million followers watched in real time as she posted increasingly unhinged conspiracy theories about digital doppelgangers. Charlotte became a cautionary tale in socialite circles, the widow who claimed her dead husband was haunting her for her crimes. Riverside Psychiatric Hospital welcomed its 3 new patients with the same professional courtesy they'd shown me. Same pale blue scrubs. Same medication schedules. Same group therapy sessions. But unlike me, their symptoms were very, very real. The investigation into their conspiracy was swift and devastating. The evidence I'd gathered during my commitment proved they'd orchestrated everything: the false imprisonment, the theft, the attempted destruction of my sanity. Their lawyers tried to claim I'd psychologically tortured them. But as Dr. Harrison testified, all security footage shows Ms. Morgan behaving perfectly normally. Their breakdowns appear to be manifestations of their own guilty consciences. The trust fund money was returned. The company stocks were restored to my name. But the real victory? They received exactly what they'd prescribed for me: indefinite psychiatric hold for evaluation. Today, I run Morgan Pharmaceuticals with a special focus on ethical psychiatric care. The irony isn't lost on anyone that the company's biggest success is a new antipsychotic medication tested and approved during my family's treatment. I visit them sometimes, at Riverside. Charlotte still sees my father, but now he's joined by all the other people she's betrayed over the years. Marcus holds court with imaginary judges, defending himself against charges only he can hear. Victoria spends her days writing frantic warnings about digital conspiracies on the ward's walls. Their doctors say they may never fully recover. The mind is fragile, Dr. Harrison reminds me, using the same words she taught me during those long nights of my own commitment. Once it's broken in just the right way, it's almost impossible to put back together. Last week, I received 3 letters, one from each of them. Charlotte's was covered in apologies to my father's ghost. Marcus's was a rambling legal brief defending his innocence to imaginary courts. Victoria's was just page after page of her username, written obsessively. I added the letters to my files, next to the original documents proving their conspiracy. A reminder that sometimes the perfect revenge isn't about violence or money. It's about teaching people exactly what they tried to do to you. Because in the end, they were right about one thing: the mind is fragile. And now they'll spend the rest of their lives understanding exactly how fragile it can be.